pay. The veterans have to pay.
Okay, 1984 Zenith color TV with an overly red picture with retrace lines. Set was working fine when I put it up. And then I pulled it out and turned it on and was greeted with a red picture. So let's open it up and try to figure out what's going on with it. Okay, here we are with the back cover removed. It's fairly clean on the inside. You know, it's a little dirty from use, but I can tell this one doesn't have 10 million hours on it, and it does not appear to be a smoker's set, which is a good thing. Now, this is what's known as a modular chassis, and Zenith was one of the last TV manufacturers to utilize that concept. That's where you can trace the fault down to whatever board is causing the trouble and just change the whole board out. In fact, Zenith was still continuing that process up until the end of the CRT era, but by that time the module was basically just a whole chassis, just replace the whole thing. The downside of that is cost. By the 90s and early 2000s, these boards were expensive even on an exchange basis. So it's advantageous to know how to repair the board yourself. Now the plus to modular construction is a TV shop can just narrow the problem down to a bad board, swap it out, and you're back in business in a minimal amount of time. And that's something that's very important when you have a shop full of TVs to get fixed and get out. Now, of course, when you quote a customer the repair price to change a whole board for a TV that probably costs $229 to begin with, they're probably going to tell you no. But if you take the time to repair the board and offer a lot cheaper bill, then you make the customer happy and you still make a payday. This bottom board is the main module that contains all of the signal processing circuitry and the power supply. This stand-up board with the flyback contains the high voltage and horizontal sweep circuitry. And then we have a little smaller board over here. That's the startup board that when you turn the set on, it kick-starts the horizontal output stage. Because on these types of sets, most of the operating voltages are derived from the secondary windings of the flyback transformer. And you have to kick-start the horizontal output into operation so the flyback can produce voltage to get the horizontal oscillator going. And of course, that's your horizontal output transistor down there. And over here we have the UHF and VHF tuners, as well as the little control board, the customer control board. This was an entry-level set, you might expect. The next one up was the version with a single variactor knob tuner. And then you had cable-ready versions and non-cable-ready versions and remote versions. There was many versions that use this chassis. There's our stickers. Zenith Radio Corporation, manufactured April 1984, Springfield, Missouri, USA. So, yeah, this is a USA-made set. Okay, I think the first order of business is to check the CRT and make sure it's not shorted. Because if it is, there's no need in going any further with this. Alright, checking the red gun. Heater to cathode short's good. G1 short's good. Cut off. And it's not even coming up. Emission, nothing. Or not enough to say we have anything. Check the other two, the green and blue, just to see how they are. So I don't know if this is my tester or the CRT. I have a hard time believing the CRT went to sleep that deeply over the year or so that it's been in storage, because it was fine when I put it down there. Let's crank the filament voltage up a little bit and see if it comes to life. Put it at about 8 volts and let's see what happens. Still not much of anything. Well, you know what might help? If I set the gun select switch to the right gun being tested. We're on the blue, no shorts, still no cutoff. And no emission, so I don't know. I'm about ready to just throw all these old crap TVs out and just go to Walmart and buy an $89 flat screen and use it until it dies. Alright, I pulled the red video output transistor out. They plug in, and you can see we have brightly colored snow being produced by the other two guns. So yeah, there's something wrong with that CRT tester. Now I'm going to switch the red output transistor for one of the other colors, and that'll determine if the transistor is causing the trouble or not. Okay, since we're able to switch the video output transistors around, and I switched the one from the red position, switched to red and blue, and now the blue is overdrawn, then that pretty much confirms that the red video output transistor is bad. Okay, this is a Motorola transistor, looks like 1034-1, date coded the 13th week of 84, so let's look that number up in the NTE book and see what that tells us. Okay, 1034-1, and they even have Zenith in parentheses there. That cross-references to an NTE 171. And a 171 is an NPN silicon, figured that much. Audio, video amplifier and regulator, TO202 case. Looks like diagram 10A. Let's see what the basing diagram looks like. Alright, looking at it from the front, going left to right, EBC. So let me check this and identify the failure mode if the meter will indicate that. Checking between base and emitter with a negative on the base, I'm getting nothing. That's good. Now with the leads reversed, positive on the base, negative on the emitter, I'm getting 0.65 volts. That's good. Now let's move the negative over to the collector. Check between base and collector. Alright, positive on base, negative on collector, I'm getting 0.63 volts. That's good. Now let's reverse the leads and I should get nothing. And we have nothing. Now let's check between collector and emitter, and we should get nothing either way. So between collector and emitter, we're getting an erratic reading here, jumping around between 0.9 and 1 volts. We shouldn't get that. And with the leads reversed, we get nothing, but there shouldn't be anything at all, either direction, between collector and emitter on a silicon transistor. So we need to try to find an NTE 171 or something equivalent to. I've been looking and looking and looking, trying to find a suitable transistor. And back in the day, it wouldn't have been a problem because I had oodles and oodles of old TV boards. But when everything pretty much fell out of the CRT TV repair market, I loaded up all those boards and hauled them to the dump. But I remembered I had this old Sylvania chassis from back in the 70s. I actually have 3 televisions that use this chassis, and we'll probably end up using parts off of it to fix those when the time comes. But I'm going to see if one of these video output transistors that plug in, see if they'll work in the Zenith set. Okay, it's an NPN device, right pin out. Just for the heck of it, let's see if I can cross-reference these numbers. Alright, 174-1 cross-references to a 190. Let's see what that is. I'm putting it in there regardless, because if it'll work as a video output in one chassis, it should work as a video output in another one. Well, it looks like the 171 is a beefier transistor, but about to the point I don't care. I'm putting this in there, and if it works, that's great. And if it fails, I'll worry about it then. But I'm tired of digging through junk trying to find the right transistor.
They did not pay off.
And we have our Judge Judy.
Or half.
But Ryan, that's the
Tablet
claims she soon realized hanging out with the defendant was bad for business because she was...
You know, I can remember when afternoon TV consisted of cartoons on one channel and reruns of Gunsmoke and Bonanza on the other channel. Now it's Judge Bimbo and Jerry Springer and Maury Povich and all that crap.
What does custom mean? Custom means matching the upholstery.
Now here's my take on televisions.
Finding exactly what you're looking for.
You know, I can go out and buy a new flat screen TV,
But worried about the
or I can watch some little black and white TV, or I can watch this color set.
upholstery sale. Now is the time.
Well, if I watch the news on any one of the three TVs, I can still figure out who got shot in town today, or who got arrested for whatever, embezzling money or whatever, or I can watch reruns of MacGyver and know exactly what he did with his Swiss Army knife to save the day. So, you know, why do I need to go buy a new TV? Something like this will do just fine. And it took me longer to find the part in my junk stash to fix it than it actually did to fix the set. Yeah, we have to get some Jerry Springer in before we end this. One thing I noticed, see that little black dot at the bottom of the screen? It looks like a piece of dirt stuck to the screen. Well, that's not a piece of dirt. That's something internal to the CRT. It looks like a small bit of phosphor flaked off, and it could have very well been a factory defect. But since it's so small and since it's towards the bottom of the screen, and since most of what of the content's going to be in the center, then I'm not going to worry about it. The only fix for that is another CRT, and I don't see that happening unless a junk TV comes along. And I wouldn't pay if I could even get a new tube, I wouldn't pay what they would probably want for one anyway. Alright, we're back together and working. I tweaked the grayscale a little bit. Now, one thing I don't like about Zenith sets is they don't have drive adjustments. They only have low light controls, so you just have to set them for the best compromise. Now, as far as between Zenith and RCA, I think RCA sets, for the most part, have the best color, but I think Zenith sets are more reliable. Now, don't get me wrong, this one's got a nice picture, but I think the RCAs have a little bit better picture.
Her boyfriend Connor Scott's home.
One out of 12, see the priest, the 211 just occurred at Our Lady of Mercy, 307 East 22nd, 1 out of 12, code 2. 1 out of 12. You like that? Yeah.
Ex-boyfriend Carlos.
Yeah, 24.3 is about the only channel on here that's worth watching. Now, 14 is PBS, but they changed their channel frequency, and I've never rescanned this particular converter box, so can't get them at this time.
Let's go.
But yeah, I think this one's going to go in place of the GE that suffered a flyback failure.
Behind me. In the man.
Tina.
Okay.
Name and type.